It's good afternoon, Steve Vamos. Thanks for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
Thank you for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
It's an absolute honor to have you on the Yellow Shelf. Your book's been out a few weeks. Congratulations through shifts and shocks. What do we need to know about your book, Steve?
Well, the book is really a reflection of 40 years in the technology industry and in management roles, experiencing all the different technology waves of change. But beyond that, all the different things we've had to cope with, whether it's financial crises, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's individual specific issues that have happened in different environments I've worked in. I've come to realize that change is really the constant. It's accelerating and it's hard for us humans. And it's also something that happens through collaboration and teamwork. And too many people are working on teams that aren't really extracting the potential of the people in those teams. So through my journey, I think I've gained some insight as to how best to overcome the challenge. You don't ever 100% overcome it, but to deal with change as an individual, but also how to get the best out of people around you in those times of change, whether it's changes you're initiating or changes that have been imposed upon you.
Yeah. And Steve, I was mentioning before we started recording, I have a HR background. So it was one of the many reasons I wanted to talk to you about the book. You are an incredibly, like you said, 40 years successful global executive. You know this space, you've seen this space. I really wanted to get an understanding of, yeah, what was your experience, maybe on your journey throughout your career of change and technology, creativity, innovation.
Well, look, there have been so many different experiences, and probably the most framing one was when I became CEO of 9MSN at the very beginning of the digital media age. There was no online ad market at the time, zero. I think Intel as a company was testing and learning at the time. And we created this company called 9MSN with backing from Microsoft and the biggest media company in Australia at the time, PBL. And they needed a CEO, and I was hired to lead this business. And the interesting thing was I knew nothing about digital media or
Wow.
media, broadly media, and I knew nothing about advertising and generating advertising revenue. Um, I was obviously a good media consumer, but I
Yeah.
didn't really know the business of either media or advertising. So I went into the company in this startup environment with lots of aspiration and good backing and money and good brands that we could bring to life online. And every meeting I went to, I knew less than everybody around me.
Okay.
And for 2 years, all I could do in these meetings was go in there, ask questions,
Okay.
try and distill what the problems or challenges were that people were facing, and then do, as CEO, what I could do to fix those problems and make sure everyone around the table was involved in understanding that we were going to act and execute to improve the situation for all of us. In year three, we'd emerged as the industry leader. We were starting to understand what it took to build this company. We had an amazing culture. People were attracting people who wanted to join us, and people loved working at 90%. And I'm sitting in my office, I look at the wall, it's a blank wall. I go, wow, what a blessing that I had no domain expertise,
Yeah.
because it made me see things that are obvious, but
Wow.
still, now common sense things that are still not common practice in too many workplaces. And that is that leadership is
Mm.
about making things better for the people around you. It's
Yeah.
not about you. It's not about you being the best media salesperson and telling
Yeah.
everybody how. It's about how you help others grow, develop, and do their work in a much more effective way. And people love that. Even little changes you make every day can make a big difference. So at the heart of it, it's a source, that experience was a source of obsession around the human element of change
Yeah.
and how leadership in that context is about enabling and helping others.
Yeah. One of my favorite little lines in the book is about it's something like aligning humans to goals. It's just really kind of that simple. And obviously it's not that simple, but it really brought a level of joy to read that and hear that.
Yeah. Well, look, the simple things are often the hardest to do.
Yeah.
So, executing a strategy or driving a change starts with very simple concepts, but they require a lot of discipline to really push through. So you have to be clear about purpose, clear about priorities. I mean, how many people or how many experiences have you had where you're working in an environment where there isn't clarity? I
Yeah.
mean, we all have. And
Yeah.
then the second is the missing thing. It's called alignment. How
Yeah.
do we align what people are doing with what the aspirations are of the organizations and what the priority of the organization is? The only way to do that is to break those dreams and big picture objectives down into actions and assign accountability and to do follow up. And that follow up is the third step, which is to focus on performance.
Yep.
So if you do that, then that performance focus, are we doing well? What are we learning? What are we getting wrong? That process then allows you to revisit whether you're clear, revisit whether you're aligned. And it's like a sailing ship. You're not going from A to B in a straight line. In changing times, you're adapting, you're shifting and changing back and forth based on what you learn. And that cycle of clear, aligned performance, clear, aligned performance, that cycle is really what drives change in your organization. And I'll just finish with one other thing, which is at the heart of it, what makes that cycle work is the ability your leaders have to encourage you by demonstrating themselves having difficult conversations and making hard choices, because words are all we have. And the speed of change, the speed of that process of learning and development is all about the quality and the speed of the words we use. So difficult conversations are key to clarity. Difficult conversations are critical to alignment and to performance focus. And that's why these simple things to do are hard in practice, because they involve us having difficult conversations where we may upset people, disappoint good people,
Yeah.
say no to good people. And
Yeah.
we've got to get over that. We've got to get over that.
Yeah, so wise. Now, Steve, I'm really curious. This is your first book you've written, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So tell us about what actually you've been such a doer for the last 40 years and a learner and a leader. Tell us what inspired you to actually write the book.
It goes back to that 9MSN experience. I mean, I was sitting there towards the end of it. I think I was there 5 years, and I thought, wow, what I've learned here is so important that I feel, and so missing in so many different organizations and leaders I interact with. So what I did after 9MSN was go back to Microsoft, and went back to selling technology, which is
Yeah.
really where my career journey has essentially been focused. And I started to realize how come, and this was at a time when a lot of people were saying, oh, technology is letting organizations down. These IT vendors, they're selling stuff that doesn't work. And then I sat there and I thought, hang on a minute, the technology you're complaining about works in these other organizations. Why doesn't it work in yours? And the answer is because you're rotten at change. And
Yeah.
so being good at change is about being good at technology. There's no technology that's implemented without a change agenda. So I realized that I could help customers who are using technology by capturing my thoughts on what I'd learned repeatedly about the things that make the difference, the must-dos that I write about in the book that can make the difference in how you respond to change and your chances of success of implementing change.
Yeah. Look, finally, Steve, how do we, if we're curious about the book or we're curious about you, I was lucky enough to reach out to you on LinkedIn. How do we connect with, I mean, I know the book's available on Amazon, but how do we connect? How do we connect with you and the book?
Yeah, well, LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so I'm really happy for people to reach out. Those that do get their hands on the book, I'd love to get reviews and feedback. That's really helpful to me
Yeah.
to understand how and where readers get value from the book, which I hope is super useful, because I've put enormous amount of the how you do things into the book, not just the why and the what, which many books have. It's
Yeah.
how to do it, how I did it.
Yep.
And then the other is stevevamos.com. So it's my name, stevevamos.com is a site that we've set up, and it's going to have more and more content as time goes on and opportunities to interact on that site.
Yeah. Look, I'll put all that in the show notes to make it really easy for people to connect. And yeah, like you said, read the book, send some feedback, send some comments. I mean, yeah, you were very generous to respond to me on LinkedIn. And yeah, where to next? I know you're a speaker. Like, what are you doing these days?
Well, my focus is on the book now, and
Okay.
we've launched in Australia. I want to do some more to give the book a good launch in New Zealand, and then around the middle of the year, I might see if I can get to the UK and the US as well. Because the thing about my book is it's a book that I think people will read and go, "This is typically written by Americans about American companies and technology." And I think there's something different about the book because it's written by someone who's been on the other end of it
Yeah.
in Australia and working on the other end of these wonderful big technology companies, but also done more local things with Xero, which is obviously founded in New Zealand and a great now global technology business. So
Yeah.
I think getting out there, speaking and helping, whatever I need to find my way into doing what I can to help
Yeah.
workplaces become better for people at work.
Oh, that is a brilliant place to leave our interview today, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with the book journey. I'm already thinking about a couple of big name podcasts in New Zealand and in the US that I may well just refer you on to because this sounds like it sounds like you've got a lot to give. Steve, thanks for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you having me on, and thanks for the great work you're doing.
Cheers.